you guys were working out.
Mm.
Like Alex turned and looked and he kind of like grinned. I don't know if he
Did
was
he?
gonna say. I don't know if he was thinking something in his
I
head
didn't
or if
see
it
him.
was something that he was wanting to say to me.
He might have. Told me the other day, I was like, you know, you can always talk to Mike. If you're like, oh, whatever, babe.
But that's a man thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, like, no, I'm fine. It's all right.
And I think it's also a Hispanic thing.
Yeah.
That's that machismo stuff.
Yeah. I've had to learn how to navigate that, but.
Good luck.
Yeah. Luckily, he's not like that a lot. He's very aware that he has anxiety and, like, he wants the help, so he's not very, like, he listens and he tries, so it's been good.
Yeah, the protocol is a not an easy thing because you have to. It's weird because for me, when I started doing it, because I kind of just went full blast, you know, I could feel the difference like immediately. Yeah. So it almost like instantly healed my anxiety. But then you get to like a back to normal life in normal circumstances, and then it's like, okay, how do you really use this thing while you're being yourself?
Right. Yeah. That's what we.
Because you have like the best version of yourself. Yeah. It's like, oh, I can do anything for 30 days.
Right.
You know, but then once the no fix is over, I was like,
afterwards.
Yeah. So that's where the real work begins, I think. So.
Yeah, for sure.
So is that what we're going to talk about today?
Nutrition,
the protocol. Okay, cool. Because we've done a nutrition talk, but you want to be specific.
I feel like it was very broad.
Yeah.
Very.
Okay. Let's do it.
All right. Welcome to Special Fit. My name is Kennedy. I'm here with Coach Mike, and we're going to be talking about the nutrition protocol today.
I think that what we probably will do is make basically the whole protocol, but we'll just do this as like a series for you guys, like starting with the nutrition because I think it's the most important thing.
Right.
The nutrition protocol is kind of interesting to me because, you know, coming from a CrossFit background, you know, coaching that realm and stuff, it's really a hard thing to do. Like now looking back at it, I know that the best intentions in terms of nutrition is out there in terms of like, you know, we have coaches and people that know a lot about nutrition, and we always say that it should be the number one thing, right? Because without the nutrition, the training doesn't really get dialed in, the sleep and all that stuff. But in terms of the amount of time that's really, it wouldn't be very appealing for people to come in and have a nutrition lesson versus a training session.
Right.
They come here to work out.
Right. That's what they want.
But if they did, like I almost imagine, which is actually what I'm starting to do right now, is that like I have, you know, the clients that I work with one-on-one. But what I'm starting to do with them is, you're working with me one-on-one. I'll train you, but there has to be one session where I'm consulting with you. Because I want to teach you this and the parent. So the parent's been going through the mentoring program. So I teach them the fundamentals of, you know, the protocol, the nervous system and movement, right? And then from there, they kind of splinter off into the community resource where we give them this so they can hear this information and really dive in a little bit deeper. But while I'm training, the student gets, you know, splinters off into their training. And then this is kind of like the middle ground where we say, okay, now I need you to educate yourself. So I will guide them. The parent has the fundamentals, the student has the fundamentals, but then as they're working through this stuff, the protocol, there's always going to be life circumstances, their individual characteristics, traits, and just their life. And then we got to work through that.
Right.
The same way that if you were with a therapist, your unique situation.
Right.
These are principles that apply to everybody, but just not in the same way.
Yeah.
Because we all have different genetics and stuff like that. So for me, it's one of those things where if I'm really gonna get the results that I want them to have, I need them to be a part of the work like that.
Yeah.
So it's me taking them through that, taking the parent through that, training them, and then sitting down with them and say, okay, you know, when you did that BTQ session and you freaked out, and this happened. Like that happened with a client of mine yesterday. Shout out to Joel. But he finally got to that point where he just went past, you know, the anger and went, you know, almost full sympathetic into flight, like, but through action. And that was a total different experience, because normally, like, during, he starts to like, oh my God. But then I made him think of something, and so he was just like going and going. And then after that, I was gonna take him on the bike and cool down. He sat on the bike, and all of a sudden it hit him, because you could see like it was a deer in headlights, and it was like, oh,
yeah, that's awesome.
I was like, hey, you did it.
Yeah,
it sucks, I know, but
oh, that's cool.
But yeah, after that, he had to like lay down. I did the kettlebell thing with him, and then anxiety went away, and it was cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, what do you want to know? What do you want to share?
Probably just the protocol. Like, first, obviously, you start with the no fix.
Yeah, let me just check and make sure this is. I was talking while I was hitting record and stuff, so. No fix.
Doing the no fix, and then kind of what happens after the no fix, and then just kind of how we talked about, like, actually practical day to day, like what it's going to look like. And
so, as a disclaimer before I talk about any of this, like, I always want to make sure that people understand that the protocol and the principles we get from Julian and Strong Fit, we just adapt them to our students. And the reason why I want to share that is it's super important for because I see this a lot in the fitness industry, is that people, you know, say that they invent things, or they, you know, and there's just a lot of people not really giving credit where credit is due.
Right.
And Julian has done like so much stuff for the community and for like us, you know, as a staff, that we have to acknowledge that, you know, because it's super important. Like me, if I do anything and it's out there and people want to use it, and you know, you can call it your own, but then that will sever the relationship. And I forever want to have that type of relationship where, you know, Julian's a mentor to us, and we appreciate, like, he puts out a lot of free stuff.
Yeah.
I think he's like way more generous than he should. But thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so I just want to make sure that people understand that the principles that we're getting, they come from Strong Fit. We have a relationship with Julian and Tyler and Richard, and you know, we just want to make sure that people understand that that's where we're getting this stuff. But at the same time, we have to find ways to adapt the information, or not adapt the information, but adapt the way we apply the information. Because we're working with a specific population of students, that the way you use it is slightly different.
Right.
Because we have to consider things like genetic disorders, we have to consider the behaviors that we see, how we deliver the information, because we have a lot of variance in terms of how our students communicate, what their receptive language is, what their sensory processing is, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's where it becomes unique in terms of how do we take this information and then use it.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
especially with the nutrition thing, like after this, I will see probably a lot of messages saying, well, you know, what if my kid has this sensitivity and he doesn't do any foods that are green, or you know, so that's why we generally talk about principles over methods all the time. Is we want you to understand what the principles of human movement or nutrition are, so that we can seek the best methods for implementation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So no fix. how do I describe No Fix? Yeah, we've done the nervous system talk, so I'm not gonna go too crazy into like the different states of the nervous system. What episode was that?
I don't know.
Was that three or four? Yes, I think it was like 3. It was discussing the polyvagal theory, Dr. Porges and Julian's wheel. I don't know if it's in frame, but we have it up there. So basically what we looked at is that the macronutrients have a relationship to the nervous system. Mm-hmm. You have 2 extreme foods, one that promotes digestion and one that turns off digestion, mm-hmm. in a way, if we're thinking about it in terms of extremes. Mm-hmm. And that has to do with how the molecules of the macronutrient are broken down. Mm-hmm. So generally, sugars are things that are easier to break down, and proteins are harder. They require more energy for your body, mm-hmm. to break down. Right. So in just using that as an example, it makes sense that you would be in a different state of the nervous system if you were all or nothing on both. Mm-hmm. So if you just pounded a bunch of steak, protein, all by itself, right, that would promote a parasympathetic response, mm-hmm. because it would require blood flow and basically for your gut to be on, your mm-hmm. motility of your gut to be on in order to break all that down. Right. So on the other side, we're on the carbohydrate, mm-hmm. which is basically sugar, and it's easier to break down. Yeah. So it doesn't require a lot of energy for your body to break it down. It's very fast. Mm-hmm. So in terms of efficiency, if you needed for the blood flow to go to your musculoskeletal system, because you need to run a race or whatever it is, the sugar would be the fastest thing for you to absorb and get going. The problem with it is if you don't use it, mm-hmm. which we see this a lot, yes. If you eat a bunch of carbs and then you wait too long and you don't use it, it'll get stored as fat and you're going to basically spike your insulin and then you will crash. Right. Hence what we talked about in the last video, where you have this relationship between the dysfunction part of so anxiety and depression are functions. They are necessary for our survival, mm-hmm. right? But when it becomes a dysfunction is when it's an issue. So we need anxiety because it helps us keep, safe, right? You're walking down a dark alley, you want to have some anxiety. But when it becomes a problem is when it inhibits your ability to function in the world. So you're trying to work and you're having panic attacks and things like that, then that's a dysfunction. Yeah. But that's where we need to look at it, right? So the carbohydrates being the most efficient thing. Then you have the fats, which are in the center. So you have 2 extremes and then you have the middle. Mm-hmm. In the middle, you have saturated fats, unsaturated fats. Mm-hmm. That's like the most basic thing that I can say about the macronutrients is just in terms of digestion, the fats are going to be the most efficient food that we eat, mm-hmm. because they have a combination of proteins and carbs in them. Right. So, but the ratio that they have them in are not going to do what the extremes do. Mm-hmm. That's why the per ounce, I guess, is that ounce or gram or whatever you want to do it by, more sustained energy than the carbohydrate. Mm-hmm. So if you feed on fats, you don't actually need to eat as much, right? Because they're more calorie dense, right? But you'll actually get more sustained energy out of a fat than you will out of the extremeness of the carbohydrate. Yeah. So the No Fix is more of like a behavioral thing more than anything. In the beginning, usually what people are having problems with is managing their relationship with food. Yeah. So if you're if you're eating foods to feel good or to feel happy, that's where the problem is.
There's an issue.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say like here in the United States, we have the biggest issue with that. You know, it's like
just normalized. It's.
I mean, if you look on social media, it's pretty apparent.
Yeah.
It's like, and you know what? I don't know why I'm obsessed with this, but like, have you ever seen my 600-pound life?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yes.
And
I know those shows are oddly addicting.
And by the way, like another disclaimer, I'm never gonna pretend to be someone who is not also struggling with. So I struggle with anxiety. We talked about that in the last thing. I also struggle with food. Like it's not a thing where we should look at professionals as like perfect beings. Like we're all on the same path.
Right.
We're all I'm a student of it as much as I am a teacher of it. But so I just wanted to throw that because I love food too, and I struggle with the cheat meals and stuff like that. And but what I love about that show is when they first eat, they eat that burger, whatever it is, and they always do this little
happy hands, like
Dude, I don't know why, but I love.
Yeah, I mean I've had those moments too.
So
some food you just bite into it and it's just so good. It's just
so that's what the No Fix is about. It's about changing your relationship with food. Right. And so when we look at the macronutrients, and especially for people with anxiety, depending on what type of anxiety you have, you know, what your stress levels are, all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, we could get into genetics and stuff like that, but you have a predisposition for how your vagal tone is. So if you're more on the parasympathetic side, I believe it's the ventral side that's going to be more higher toned, versus if you're on the dorsal side, you're going to be more on the sympathetic tone. So I'm venturing that I'm more on the ventral because of the anxiety stuff, but I could be wrong. There could be a relationship between the two. But basically, if somebody that's like me, that's very high anxiety and experiences panic attacks and stuff like that, the carbohydrate will send signals of you're already high sympathetic, and then you ingest carbohydrates with proteins and you mix these signals, what's being sent from the gut and the heart up to the brain are going to be a lot of distorted signals. But some of the signals can be, oh shoot, I think I actually turned it off. There we go. But some of the signals can kind of trick you. Because, like let's say for instance, you know, the carbohydrate can be incredibly satisfying, right? And it's such a tricky macronutrient because it satiates you in a way, but there's also, you know, in terms of like creating serotonin and things like that, it could eliminate your, how do I put it? I guess it takes away your need to move. Or not the need, but your actual movement. Because anytime we have like anxiety is basically a driver to the sympathetic side of the nervous system. So let's say you have a carbohydrate, all the feelings that you initially get from it will drive you to that side, your heart palpitating, things like that. In the absence of movement, then that's what happens in terms of the crash and all of that. But if you were going to use it right away and go hard and all of that, there would be no problem until if you unbalance it to that side, then we'll probably have some issues. So the No Fix really is like a behavioral thing. It's are you eating foods because they make you feel good, and you're eating them to replace your behavior. So think about like when people are angry or sad or whatever emotion that they're having.
Yeah.
And when they turn to food, the foods that they turn to are usually very specific to the emotion that they are eating for. So if they're sad, it's always like some dessert or ice cream or whatever. You know, like you always see the movies with the girl
crying and
you know what I mean? But it's never like, oh, dude, I feel like some spinach right now. Right. Or it's just, you know, housing a bunch of pizza and bad food and just, you know, dying on the couch after, you know. I think that response to food or that behavior to food is no different than an alcoholic with alcohol. You know, it just is more acceptable, I guess. Right. So in the no fix phase, what we do is we basically, why it's called no fix is that there's no sympathetic fixes. Mm-hmm. And then sympathetic fix means that you're not eating the food because you like the taste and you like the texture, the smell and things like that. It's because you're using that thing to replace behavior. Mm-hmm. So you're bored and you reach for the bag of chips, that's a sympathetic fix. You're bored and you know, take down the whole tub of fruit, that's a sympathetic fix. Right. You're bored and you just grab a bunch of candy and all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Those are all sympathetic fixes. Anytime you're ingesting something to replace your need to deal with your life or fix something, right? Because like, I even think about this with myself because I'm a very active person. Mm-hmm. But where I struggle is in like organization because my head goes in a million different directions that it could kind of, I could kind of even get like paralysis through analysis where I can just sit there and contemplate the world for a long time. Mm-hmm. So I have bouts where I can be really high sympathetic and just action, and then boom, and then go down into a depression where I have all this stuff, but I act on nothing. Right. You know what I mean? And so the no fix is to recognize where you're using substances to replace. So we remove stimulants. Mm-hmm. Stimulants are alcohol, drugs, carbohydrates, sugar, caffeine, and then any other food. It could even be a fat. Right. That you use. So if you're bored and you just start pounding cashews or pounding cheese or whatever it might be, anytime you just do that behavior, that's a sympathetic fix. Yeah. Because I had to get rid of the cashews. That's why I brought that up. I don't have a problem with walnuts.
But cashews, all day.
Oh my God.
I'm the same
and
way.
They would be in my little drawer down here and I'd be doing my computer work and all of a sudden I think I'm hungry, but I'm not. And I grab the bag and I'm just in there. Yeah. Yeah. And it would just,
I know, we get the huge tubs from Costco. Oh, so good.
You can't eat just one. But that's the sympathetic fix. You know, like I've never heard any nutrition coach talk about it in that way. So when Julian brought that up, it made a whole lot of sense to me in terms of why I was getting caught in these loops between the anxiety and the depression. So basically we did the no fix for 30 days. We all screamed for bloody murder when you said like no carbs. Right. Because at the time I was eating and drinking like a good 50 to anywhere on the low side I would consume about like 30 to 40 grams, but on the high side it would be like 50 to 80 grams of carbs per meal. Wow. I thought you were going to say or per day. No. per meal. So if I was eating anywhere, depending on the day and what I could take down, 4 to 6 meals a day, and then a glycogen drink during my session. Yeah. Oh man, like that's a lot of carbs. It's
How'd
a lot
you feel?
Sugar. I think that I would have been fine if I wasn't mixing the macronutrients. If I wasn't mixing the you know, all the meat and protein throughout the day, I think I would have been okay.
Yeah, because you were using it. You were training, weren't you? Yeah.
But who knows? Yeah. Because if I would have just been feeding on carbs and veggies, I don't know, that might have been a problem too, because it would have been just leaning too high on the sympathetic side. Yeah. Because I was always taught like very low fat, low fat, low fat. Right. So yeah, I think, who knows? Not that I want to find out. I don't want to find out.
That's
but it wasn't good doing it that way.
Right.
It wasn't good. You know, in the beginning, you get a result because you see that your body's growing and you're gaining muscle and you're getting stronger. Goes back to the whole objectives, constraints thing. It works until it doesn't work.
Right. Because anytime you do something different than just laying down doing nothing, you're gonna get a result. Doesn't mean you're gonna feel good. Doesn't mean you're gonna keep progressing at that same rate. It's just temporary.
For me, between that and the type of training that I was doing, I think is what kind of sent me over the edge with the anxiety. I think that's when my nervous system said, "You've had enough.
Right.
We're gonna shut you down."
Right.
So luckily the protocol came at the right time because not only was I ready to learn something new, when I experimented with it, it was like a, you know, clean slate. But I think it just reset like everything for me. It was like feeling more like myself again.
Right.
I hadn't felt like that in years. And so yeah, I think so the No Fix, we did it for 30 days. We got rid of everything. It was hard.
What was the hardest one for you though?
The carbs were hard in the beginning because I'm used to training on carbs.
Right. That's what you were told and taught.
Yeah. And I was a guy that always had to eat prior to training, you know, because I always felt like I was hypoglycemic or something, that I would get nauseous or very shaky and just weak, and that I would pass out if I didn't eat. Now I think most of the time I train, I'm training fasted.
Right.
Which is crazy, you know. And now I eat so little in terms of quantity. I don't know where my calories are right now. I'm actually interested in seeing what I'm actually ingesting on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
But at the time when I was doing No Fix, I think I was consuming around the same amount of calories that I was consuming when I was eating the 4 to 6 meals.
Right.
It was roughly between 3 to 3,500 calories. There were a few days here and there that I was like around 4,000. I'm probably guessing I'm in the 4 to 5,000 right now.
Yeah, with fats, it's pretty easy to.
Yeah. I don't say it's easy because you're not as hungry.
Right.
That's the thing is you don't, like I just ate lunch. So I just ate lunch and I'm like, I can't even think of eating for the next like 4 to 5 hours.
You feel like you're never going to be hungry again.
Yeah, when I was doing the other way, I was like eating every 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I could.
Yeah.
You know,
you still felt like you had a room.
Doing it clean was the worst. That was like the most miserable experience I've ever had with food.
Yeah.
Like, some people could remember me sitting in the gym and just going, just like, how many times can I eat chicken and spinach and so gross.
No, I can't imagine.
But yeah, so we get rid of the stimulants for 30 days, mostly, or I should say, first and foremost, to dial in circadian rhythm for sleep. Because of mixing the stimulants with the proteins, it messes with the circadian rhythm because your body doesn't know what to do. And now thinking back at it, I'm like, oh my God, why did I do that? Because I started to develop even like a restless leg kind of thing.
Oh, interesting.
And throughout the night, I just knew I wasn't sleeping well.
Yeah.
I would be in bed for 8 hours.
Right.
But I was not sleeping at all. Like, I was half awake most of the time.
Yeah. Like you know when you sleep good. You know the difference. And
so on the No Fix, it kind of feels like being reborn again in a sense of like when you sleep well for the first time and you get up and you're just like you're up, you're ready.
What am I gonna do today?
You're awake because you are done sleeping.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a different feeling than like I gotta wake up now.
Yeah.
Like the alarm went off and I'm like.
Right. So many days my body would wake me up before my alarm, and I'd get so annoyed. I'm like, no, I have 30 more minutes. But then I'd be like, I don't need it. Like it's not that like you wake up and then you fall back asleep, then you wake up and then you fall back. I was like awake, couldn't close my eyes, like started my day.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is for the digestion.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout the day, you're supposed to be doing stuff.
Right.
You know, and that's another thing that kind of goes in with the circadian rhythms, and why a lot of our students have an issue is, are they getting enough movement?
Mm-hmm.
Are they doing enough things?
Mm-hmm.
When I look at a lot of the lives that I've seen, and from what I get from the parents and stuff like that, there's not enough of the right type of movement for them.
Yeah.
And in terms of the whole lactate versus the using of the lactate conversation, that can create a huge imbalance in the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, like, the nutrition, you know, we're talking the protocol and stuff, but it's connected to so many different things that we can't, the body is so complex that we can't just, you know, like Julian talks about the relationship or the difference between, you know, functional integration and functional segregation. A lot of times we want to take this one concept and say, oh, this explains
right.
everything. And it doesn't work that way. You know, the relationship between lactate and the using of lactate, the brain networks, the nervous system, you know, the arch concept, homeostasis, hormesis, all these things are all related to one another. IT versus ET, parasympathetic, all this stuff. It's the whole, and that's why the saying is that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Is that you can't just remove one thing and explain this whole complex system.
Because then it's out of context, and it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't work the same way.
And so, at least with this, I can see, you know, for myself, looking at the way I was living my life in terms of stress and all that, I can see how I was doing my life and avoiding in a lot of different ways, and where I was basically just doing myself wrong. Like, it was just too much imbalance in one way that, so when I removed the stimulants, that's when we basically start to feel things different. You're sleeping better, you're digesting better, so your body's not fighting itself throughout the day. Hey, you're supposed to be doing stuff throughout the day, not digesting every 2 hours a big ass meal that you just took down because, you know, the nutrition protocol says to do this. You know, it's like, you've got to take in 30 grams, you know, if you're going to build muscle. Which, by the way, like, when I was eating those 4 to 6 meals compared to now, I'm actually, when I'm on the protocol, leaner than when I wasn't on the protocol. So even though I was ingesting the same amount of calories that I was when I was doing macros, my body fat actually dropped and my lean muscle increased. My weight stayed the same, but
interesting.
You know, probably there's going to be somebody that's just going to say, oh, that's you because genetically you're. I'm like, dude, you should see me train. And,
and that's the difference.
It's, but yeah, I train hard, but I don't think I train more than, you know, well, I shouldn't say average, but more than somebody who trains hard. You know what I mean? Like, like people that train for an hour, hour and a half, or whatever it might be, like, I don't know that I go harder than them or not. Maybe I'm more focused or more, I guess, more precise with what I do, because I can be a little obsessive about how I do things, but that's just because I'm always trying to get better and better at what I do, because if I get better at it, then I know that we can be better at it, you know what I mean? So the removing the stimulants, to finish that loop, is basically for you to improve the digestion, improve your sleep, and get to a place where now we can face what is the behavior with food. And for me, it started to learn, like, you know, these are the certain things that have a hold on me in a way that it's kind of like being addicted to drugs. It's like I couldn't let go of that ice cream. Because it was like, as soon as dinner's done, that ice cream is calling my name, and I cannot, I still struggle with it. Like I joke around with all the time. It's like, hey, can you get the ice cream? And I talk like a little kid when I say it. So the ice cream is my biggest Achilles heel. It just, anywhere I go, I want to know like what their ice cream
Yeah.
tastes like,
Yeah.
and if it's, you know, so that's something that I work on and see, like, how can we get to a place where it, you know, doesn't have a hold on me to where I have to have this
Right.
ice cream every day, you know,
Right.
that kind of thing. So, and when it recognizing when it that becomes like a problem,
Mhm.
when that becomes an issue of diabetes, high blood pressure,
Yeah.
obesity, all these kind of things, health, you know. So if I'm a person who has high anxiety and sugar is something that just turns me into a different human being,
Mhm.
we need to have a conversation about that.
Right.
So that's something that like I work with parents a lot on, because that's the toughest thing, because we see with our students like behavior surrounded around food.
Yeah.
You know, like, do not take away that thing,
Right.
because I am going to break everything in this house and put my head through the window or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And you know, as a parent, how do you say like, I'm gonna take this thing away if it, you know what I
Right.
mean? So it becomes a really hard thing, which is why I like to include the student in the conversation, because I think that our students understand what is good for them, what is not good for
Mhm.
them. Like, I have a daughter and she loves to, you know, you put sugar in front of her, she's take it down like a gremlin, you know. And it's just one of those things. It's like, as a parent, it's a hard sell, you know?
Right.
But for our parents, it's even a harder sell, just because it's kind of like that crying baby kind of thing, right? It's like, do you want to pick your battles with it? It's like,
Right.
just give him the pacifier
Right.
and he'll shut up for a
Right.
while, you know, that kind of thing. But then when it starts to become a bigger issue,
Mhm.
like a health issue,
Mhm.
that's when I think a lot of parents, so I guess that's why we have to not look to quick fixes,
Mhm.
but to look for long-term solutions.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what the parent mentoring program, that's why we train and then coach them on the side on the stuff, because if the student is learning about it and they start to feel the difference between, you know, the clear signals and when the signals are off
Mhm.
and distorted and all of that, then we have a better, I guess, more ammo for us to have this conversation and say, okay, like, you tried this and you see how you feel.
Mhm.
And, you know, as you accumulate these small wins over time, then we can get to a better and better, more, you know, it's just that constraints thing. You're setting one constraint at a time and you are getting more precise with the learning and you get more complex with it.
Mhm.
The more education they get on it, the more they understand, the more connections we create through training between the brain and the body, and they're hearing it, they're experiencing it, they're creating more relationships with the protocol and with other people doing it, whether it's their teammate on, you know, in the gym or whoever.
Mhm.
Now it becomes like a thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I think you create like culture.
Mhm.
You know, that's what changes paradigms and stuff like that, is the learning and connecting like that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, the no fix is not like, I think it's a really hard thing to do, but I
hard
think
at first, and then I think when you start to feel better, it's not hard anymore.
Yeah.
Because
I guess.
I mean, at least that was my personal experience. Like, of course, the first week and two, when you're coming off of all the carbs and the sugar, it's difficult. Like, and you have to fight that. Like, I want this. I need to go get it. Like, you have to not. But then you start to feel better, and then you're like, oh, I like this.
Yeah. And just, you know, also when it comes to the application of the no fix, especially with the students that we're dealing with, because most of them are on some sort of drugs. We don't recommend them just coming off drugs without consulting with their physician and things like that. So the no fix is something that might even take a year.
Yeah.
Even though for us we did it in a month, it's like that's why the adaptation of it or how we implement it is different, because we have so many other factors that we deal with.
Yeah.
If there's aggressive behaviors and things like that, it might mean doing one food at a time.
Yeah.
You know, and then until you finally get to a no fix starting point, which might be a year down the road.
Yeah.
You know, so it might be like starting first with the carbs and then with the sugar, or vice versa, starting with the sugar, which I think is the best way to go. Because you might as well just fight the biggest demon right out the gate and make it easier from there.
Right.
And then finally getting to a point where you could eliminate the drugs and stuff like that. I think, like the way I explain it to a lot of the parents, once they finally get there, it's like, you know, here, meet your kid. Because when they're on the stimulants, that's not them.
Right.
Like, because I know what it feels like to be on them, and I don't even have half the issues that our students deal with. But I know what it's like to be in a relationship with Mike on stimulants and Mike off the stimulants, and it is like drugs, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So practically, what does a day look like on no fix? How does it work?
I mean, basically, so I hate to like make it so like vague, but the sympathetic fix is the most important part of the no fix, which means that it's going to take work for you to figure out what is a sympathetic fix.
Right.
Because it might even be your phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So basically, if we're just talking about food, it would be feeding on fats and veggies throughout the whole day. Avocados, different oils, cheese, nuts and seeds and things like that. And you're eating them however you want to eat them. You know, like I make my little guacamole dip in the morning. You know, midday, what I ate today was spinach salad with a bunch of cheese and avocados and sunflower seeds and whatever. And then at nighttime is for down regulation. Just pound the protein, whatever protein your heart desires, and still stick with the veggies. This is where people might take it too far and think, oh, I can eat whatever. It's like, you can eat fruit, just know that fruit is a carb, and if you're going to eat it, or some carb, eat it before you train. It's for training only. That's it.
Yeah.
But recognize if it is a sympathetic fix. Like for me, strawberries, berries are not sympathetic fix. Those are not fruits that I will. But you put a pineapple in front of me, and I'll eat the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
The whole pineapple.
Yeah.
So
I'm opposite.
Yeah. So, yeah, berries and stuff, I'm like, I'll eat a few and I'm good. You know, rice, same thing. Potatoes, same thing. But depends on how you make it. You know what I mean?
But does it matter that fruit is sweet, so you get that sugar sensation almost? Does that matter during the no fix?
Yes, because even if you had an artificial sweetener, just the sweet taste alone can trigger a sympathetic response. So even if it doesn't have sugar in it, but it has some sort of artificial sweetener, even the taste of it, you didn't even have to swallow it. Like you could put honey on your tongue and trigger a sympathetic response. You wouldn't even have to ingest it.
Interesting.
So, yeah, just the sweet taste alone can do that. So basically, that's, you know, the no fix is that you're feeding off of fats throughout the whole day, protein at night, veggies all day long, carbs only for training. That's basically, like, if you were using the carbs, that's the basic difference between no fix and the auto regulation, is that on auto regulation, now we're just basically finding like your center, you know, because you are going to do your life, you are going to eat ice cream every now and then or whatever it might be, but it's like, how can we move your center and get to a place where you are you, but you're not, you know, the you that was on stimulants, but you're not so strict that you can't sustain it. And how do we get better and better and better and dial it in? Because you have to look at the factors of like, how's your training going? How's your sleep going? How's so if all of a sudden you were sleeping really well on no fix and you were doing really good, but you couldn't sustain it, something was off in terms of it was too strict for you to carry it on the long term.
Yeah.
But once you start cheating or whatever you do, all of a sudden it wrecks your sleep again or wrecks your training. Then you need to look at that and go, what was it? Did my stress level go up? Am I eating too many carbs now? Am I kidding myself and saying I'm doing it for training, but now there's
not training that hard,
right? So that's why the conversation with the coach needs to be had, and why I do like food logs and things like that, and talk about like, oh, you ate this and then you did this, like why that doesn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then there might be misinterpretation as well. So yeah, that's the main difference, is that you'll see more carbs on auto-regulation, but it doesn't mean they have to be there.
Right.
You know,
there's a lot of days I don't.
Because for me, I actually don't. People like me don't actually need carbs.
Right.
If you're heavy sympathetic toned, and you do just good on fats, your body doesn't need.
Yeah.
The fat is an essential food. The carb is not an essential food.
Right.
That's, I hate to break it to you.
It goes against what you've been told, but.
Yeah. That will be another conversation and all that. But yeah, I think it's not an easy thing, and it's not supposed to be easy. The learning process has ups and downs, and finding your center and moving your center is something that takes work.
Right.
You know what I mean? It takes a lot of work. So, but I think in the long term, it'll be a good process for our parents and for our students to go through, because they'll learn a lot more.
Right.
And they get to own that. You know what I mean? It's something that you can't take away from them, and they can just only take the learning further and further from there. After they know the principles, it's like, hey, now I need to dial this in even more. You know?
Yeah. Cool.
I think it's a good place to stop.
All right. Well, thanks.
Good episode.
It was. We covered a lot, but it was good.
Pat myself on the back.
All right. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, you can go ahead and check out more on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to check us out on Instagram and Facebook as well. If you're interested in any more information about Special Fit or any of the topics of these videos, you can reach out to Mike at special-fit.com. And we'll be back with more videos next week.